Welcome to NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series, where we focus on how financial advisors work, live, and give to their local communities and our greater financial services industry. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, NAIFA Nation. Welcome to this new series of Advisor Today, the podcast. We're super excited. I'm your co-host, Chris Gandy, and we are super excited to have as our guest co-host for a stint of time, Karina Hatfield. Karina, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Chris?
Good. It's good to see you.
Great to see you.
I feel like we haven't seen each other in a long time.
I know. It needs to happen more often.
So those who don't know, Karina is serving at the national board level. Those of you who don't know her, you probably have seen her around. When you see Karina, make sure you go over and say hi to her. She is a servant leader, and we are super excited about having her as we've revamped the Advisor Today podcast to include wonderful guest hosts who are helping us round out our new version of the podcast. So thanks for listening. You can find us on all the download systems, places, locations. Just Google NAIFA Advisor Today podcast. With no further ado, our technician of all technicians, Zach, who's our sponsor for today's podcast.
Today we're talking about the LUTCF designation. If you're a new agent or advisor, the LUTCF program is a perfect way to kickstart your career. The LUTCF designation is recognized as the industry benchmark for insurance credentials and is endorsed by the top financial firms and insurance agencies. Graduates of the LUTCF program report increases in their earnings, client base, and even their job satisfaction after completing their studies. Develop the skills that top insurance agencies demand that agents need to know while advancing your own financial career. You can find out more at lutcf.naifa.org. Back to you, Chris.
Thanks, Zach. I appreciate it. We'll let Karina have the honors today. Karina, would you do us the honors of introducing our guest for today's podcast?
Absolutely. I would like everyone to give a warm welcome to our guest today, Ryan Ross. Welcome, Ryan. How are you doing today?
Hello. Great. I am tremendous. I'm in New Jersey, and it's like we're June in New Jersey, but it's like dreary, but it reminds me of when I was growing up in California, and we'd go to my grandparents' house, and it was like dreary in January. So I actually really like this weather. So it's a great day. Great day.
I'm not far from you, and I'm having the same. It was a bit, that dreary cold this morning, and I'm feeling it warming up, and it's almost like the summer rain is coming, which is one of my favorite childhood memories is playing around in the summer rain. So I'm looking forward I'm looking outside like, all right, let's do it.
It's also some of the best, Karina and I were talking before we started, it's also some of the best running weather, or maybe not biking, but we were talking about triathlons, and it's some of the best weather for that because the sun's not beaming down on you, but it's still warm. So I'm a big fan.
Chris, is it like that where you are today? Would you like to go for a run with us, virtual run with us later today?
A virtual run would be perfect. Virtual means you guys run and I'll cheer you on. That is virtual how we do it, right? So super excited, Ryan, to have you on. So let's talk a little bit about your practice, and a little bit about let NAIFA Nation know who you are so that they can get at least a broad scope of kind of who you are and how you joined the industry.
Sure. So I kind of grew up in the intersection of financial services and marketing. My dad was an advisor for my whole life, so I kind of understood the industry from like the entrepreneur's perspective. I started my career at Barron's Magazine, doing ad sales at Dow Jones, and then I worked at FT, the Financial Times as well. That was in New York City, and then I moved to London because my wife got a job there, and I'm like, let's do it, right? I was working at the FT, but I switched to marketing technology. I worked at a company called Bright Talk, which is like YouTube for business as a webinar platform. So I learned about content marketing that way. I was also making my own podcast just because I like speaking with people, right, and learning new things. And then when COVID hit, we came back over here for another job opportunity, and I started my own shop because I realized after working with financial services marketers that some people don't understand how to create their own marketing plans and execute. And specifically, my dad went independent. He was at Morgan Stanley for 35 years. He went independent and he's like, I don't know how to market myself because, you have that institutional credibility at Morgan Stanley in general, right? Or anybody that's at a wirehouse would probably say the same. When you go independent, you're like, all right, I got to do everything myself now in most cases. So I'm like, I know what to do. This is what you got to do. And I said, write a book. And he started writing his book the next day, right? So I said, I had been working with people across the spectrum of industries, from therapists to tech companies to weed rolling machines that were doing like demos and wanted to do like demos of their weed rolling machine. That was crazy. They weren't like sampling the product, but anyways, they were sampling the machine to roll it. But I'm like, I need to focus, right? I need to focus on one industry vertical, and that's what I tell a lot of advisors to do now. I'm like, focus on a vertical. It makes decisions a lot easier. You can get a higher resolution of what that audience needs, what your clients' needs are. So I started doing that basically in about 2021 with a very select group of people. You got to make sure you're working with the right people. So I say I worked at the intersection of financial services and marketing, helping advisors create webinars, create an online presence, try to be the best known advisor in their area or in their market. And that brings us here. I joined NAIFA as a member in October in New Jersey. So I work closely with the New Jersey team, and they're a great group here. And I'm helping them do their marketing as well, building out that online presence, try to make sure that members get the most out of their membership, and it's a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
So you like taking trees that have been rooted for a long period of time and trying to make them grow new branches, huh? Okay, so let's talk about what that
Sure.
looks like. That's what I would call our way of thinking in the insurance industry, right? Is that it
Okay.
tends to be rooted in old thought, right?
Ah,
And so, see, Ryan, you caught that, right? You kind of
I
caught
get
the
it.
tree, you got it, the leaves, you gotta. Why is it that financial services is so hard to market, considering if we look at the statistics that 80% of the people out there are actually looking for help or advice in doing work, and 50% of the people out there are looking for insurance but don't know where to start, or there's these myths that are out there about insurance and financial services products. So why is it so hard?
Well, I would say it's easy to get the word out there, but it's easy for anybody to get the word out there, right? And what I mean when I say that is, let's look back to like the beginning of social media, right? Anybody could create content online, right? There is a huge need or demand by the population for financial information, right? Ever since ERISA started, the need of financial advice has been really prevalent because people have had to manage their own portfolios, right? Or their at least their own pension funds. That's what that created. Financial literacy didn't keep up because the onus of education was on the individual, and financial advisors can create that. But the challenge is that anybody can create content and put financial advice out there. Um, this is especially true with finfluencers who just don't have the right certifications. They haven't spent time understanding the nuances of an individual's needs for financial advice. So they're creating content all the time, and there's a lot of noise. For financial advisors, it's hard because you have to do multiple jobs at once, right? You need to actually get in front of your clients, right? You got to market yourself, but then also you have to do the actual work, right? You need to understand the individual's needs. You need to put together the plan. You got to make sure that that client is continuing educated on what they are, what their needs are, and how do I, if I have a parent that's going into long-term care, or if I need to create an estate, um, you got to actually provide the service. But creating the content, that's a whole nother literally platform of understanding that advisors need to do. because most of the time people like using Zoom to its fullest extent. I would say probably 20% of the Zoom users can use it to its full extent, right? And there's so many platforms out there that advisors have to choose from to communicate to them to their market. Uh, I say it's easy to create content because you can just turn on your phone and put that on Instagram. But it's harder to do this knowing what people are searching for and being able to match that with what you can speak about and then be able to put that online in a consumable format. So to just quickly summarize this, it's easy to create the content and people can do it. They're often unqualified. The people that are qualified are doing this, but they're focused on providing good advice, not necessarily on using the platforms to provide that advice.
So I'll ask the next one. So AI and how that plays into it and what we're seeing. I know it's helping me formulate some email responses and just get some systems in place. But I'm assuming, it's different, Chris. I don't know in what manner you use it. And I'm sure depending on who somebody's, broker dealer is, they have restrictions about what they can put in there and all of that stuff. But, what do you think's like the favorite thing or the flavor of AI today? And how do you use it and how do you work towards like financial advisors using it as
Sure.
well?
Yeah. So I would say that AI, okay, it not only changes like how you can create, because we can all go into like ChatGPT and say, you can ask any question, right? I have this stuff in my fridge. What do I need? What can I make for dinner, right? Or my daughter needs to not bring her bunny into school. How do I separate that from her, right? You can ask her any question, ask it any question, and it'll give you an answer. It'll give you a plan for what vacations to take this year, this summer, and it'll be pretty good, right? Because it can just go into the internet and find things out. So it's really easy to create. It makes it easy to create. It makes it very easy to it supercharges the work that you can do, right? Just like you're talking about emails, it can create email cadences very easy. So what might have taken you 60 minutes in the past takes you literally 60 seconds. So it makes it a lot easier. The quality might need to be adjusted, but I would say that it also changes how you're found. Um, Increasingly, people for the last 25 years, I would say, we go to Google in order to find things, and then SEO helps you be found through Google. I don't think it's enough anymore. You need to be found on these AI engines, right? It might be Perplexity or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. Being found using these platforms is really important. AEO is kind of this new buzzword, the answer engine optimization. I think that the key thing is like just being found, and the messaging needs to be consistent across those platforms. There's something called the name, address, phone number. And that's just like how you can be found across multiple platforms, making sure that message is consistent. But I would say like the tools you can use now, yes, ChatGPT, they've just launched tasks, which basically is just a string of requests back to back, right? So I can say, hey, give me every Monday at 8 a.m., give me a breakdown of the top 10 news items for the last week. And it'll do that. And it does a pretty good job. And you can ask it for the resources that it used to do that. So it's launched different use cases that ChatGPT has. Zapier also does it. They call it agents. But I would say the most important thing for the advisory industry is just being found, because there's millions of no, there's, let's say, 300,000 advisors out there, and everybody's got or they should have a niche, right? Maybe that's geographic, maybe it's practice based. But being able to be found using these platforms, I think it's going to be a big differentiator, because this is where people are going. Like I said, 25 years ago, for the last 25 years, that people go to Google. Increasingly, they're going to these answer engines. I call them answer engines. It's the AI platforms, right? People go there for answers, and you can structure your website to be found using, instead of like short form keywords, 1 to 3 words. Now it's 3 to 7 keywords because people are asking larger questions, and structuring your website to do that makes it a lot easier. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's also like it's a lot. And I'm also thinking about I have a couple friends who are professionals in other spaces and they're making these like short clips and stuff like that on social media about like their day. Like they're trying to become some form of like social media influencer. And to Chris's comment about the tree, I'm a third generation agent and I just think about my dad and like what he would and wouldn't do and how would he be in this market today. Because there's this professionalism there's a form of professionalism that needs to be had among financial advisors. I mean, you're talking about someone's retirement and the rest of their life and all their things, right? Or not just their retirement, their everyday. And so where do you fit in this social media influencer space? Like, are we sharing our day to day, or are we only seen in the office or in the client's home or whatever? Like, and marketing that, like, and I'm guessing probably it's depending on what your niche market is, right?
Well, I would say if the question is like, how do you incorporate all of the different elements of a marketing plan into what you're doing, right? Based upon each person's proficiency, right? Some people might be really good at saying, this is what I did during my day. That just might sound terrible to somebody that doesn't know how to work their phone properly, right? I would say like start with your strengths, right? Because if somebody is just really, they can write very well, there's definitely a place for that. And they can actually, you can take, if your dad has just a huge amount of knowledge on life insurance products or like legislation, maybe he likes watching the news a lot and he can just bang out a huge blog post a week or something like that. Use that strength. And then you can use AI actually to translate that into other formats, right? So you can say, hey, based on this blog post we wrote this week, how can we cut this into short form LinkedIn posts, right? Or how can we create this into a campaign, or I don't know, a month-long campaign of somebody talking about their day, and then also say how that translates to the life insurance industry, et cetera. So I would say like there's so many ways to be communicating with people in a proactive manner, but making sure it's like it's strategic, saying we're going to be doing this for the next month rather than tactical, being like, oh, I feel like doing this today because I had a smoothie and it was great and I'm going to tell people about it, right? Maybe you want to do less of that because it's not as relevant unless you have your audience is like smoothie franchise owners or something like that. So I would say like make it simple, make it easy for yourself to create something because the tools are out there. It just comes down to the initiative of doing it and making it a strategic plan so that you can create content on a consistent basis and get in front of people because you just got to get your face seen. So whatever makes it easier to do that, I would say that's probably the path of least resistance.
So Ryan, you mentioned fin-fluencers.
Influencer, yeah.
That's a real word, right? We'll have to add that to the NAIFA block of words. So fin-fluencers. To give people an idea, what is that? What is that? Who is that? Are those people that are who are those people?
So a finfluencer is somebody that's very good at content creation. They're overqualified in content creation, but they don't have, and they're talking about financial services topics and they're giving advice on financial services, but they don't have the credentials to actually back up what they're saying with like tactical proof, right? They might have 10,000, 100,000 followers. They might have a Netflix show. I'm thinking of one specific guy, and he gives great advice. He's written books on these things, but he himself does not have the credentials that you would, an individual should seek in their financial advisors, their insurance advisors, things like that. So they are great. They're overcompensating or they're overqualified in content creation, but they're underqualified to actually give advice. You would never want to take advice from them in like a professional context, but they're just really good at creating content.
So the people that are, I can call people out on this because this is our podcast. We can do whatever we want,
Sure.
as long as right? So I'm going to say like the Susie Ormans of the world, and what's his name that yells at the screen all the time
Oh yeah.
on
Uh,
CNN.
he's like, you know which stocks to buy because he says
Yeah,
don't buy these stocks.
him.
Yeah. Well, I I think
But on
Susie
social
Orman
media,
might
right? So on
what
social media instead of
Kramer.
Kramer, yeah. So instead of doing
Well,
it on TV, there are
yeah,
people that are doing it on social media.
yeah,
Like I'm in a couple of groups where I'm connected to a couple of people where I get the one video all the time where the guy walks up to the kid and he's like, hey, he's like, well, how did you become wealthy? He's like, well, you take $100 and you put it in bonds and you just hold it for
yeah,
40 years and you
yeah,
have over time you have $10 million. And I'm thinking
yeah,
to myself, so
yeah.
I'm curious. I'm
I'm
just,
thinking, okay, so there's this guy. His name is Ramit Sethi, and he wrote a book called "I Will Teach You to Be Rich." I read the book. It was an interesting book, right? But this is like mass market information for people, right? Guys, he's very good at creating content. He's creating courses. Um, what advisors can actually do to say like, this is they can comment on the videos that these people make and say like that's accurate, that's not accurate, right? There's one guy, his name is Gabe Shaleen, I think, and he's a advisor based in California. He does a great job, highly qualified. He's been on the Barron's list, and he calls people out on LinkedIn. And he's looking at the videos and saying that's accurate. This is not accurate. Do not listen to this, right? So I like it when people are calling out based upon their credibility. But yeah, the finfluencers, I, it's a free market. They can do what they want, but I think it's beholden on the advisors to call people out and say that is not accurate unless this is true, right? That's what I think.
right. And so part of that is the fight for the general public, right? It's
Sure.
opinion, right? Because at the end of the day, we see social media move as opinions and ideas move, right? And so uh, you want to stay on the positive side of that algorithm, right? You want
Yeah.
to be on that side, but you also want to be of the topics and conversation. So there's a fine line there, right? Because when people are looking for, I think the challenge in financial services right now, which is the reason why that number is so large, we actually looked at some recent numbers, is that the generation between 30 and 20 um, have the three out of every four have engaged in financial services. Whereas you take the group right above them, the group right above them, and even the group above them, and that number drops below like 50%. It drops below like 50%. So there's a 75% down to less than 50%, like 40%, which is a huge gap, right? You think about
Mhm.
the people. So you got to start saying, okay, so it's not just the information, it's the implementation of
Yeah.
these concepts, but we're all fighting for the public's opinion. So question is, how do we get it? How do we get the attention of a potential client
Mhm.
there who needs our help for them to actually engage in Karina's process, our process, and get them out of the algorithm swing, right? Because
Yeah.
once you swipe up, I'll give you a concept, infinite banking. Once
Yeah.
you swipe up on infinite banking, you're in infinite banking, uh, you know,
Yeah.
portal for forever. Like you
Yeah.
can't, you're like, I can't get out. Even if you put in
Yeah.
butterflies and rainbows, like you can't
Yeah.
get out. It's like butterflies and rainbows and infinite banking. You're like, wait a minute, how did I get here? Right. So I call it the vortex. Like, so you can't get out of that vortex. How do we stay on the right side of that, but still be part of the conversation if
Yeah.
we're trying to just change how we're seen by the general public?
Yeah. Well, I would say that there's kind of two things at play here, right? The first one is you can have all of the content that you want to create, right? You think you got some great ideas for blog posts, but then there's this other area of the Venn diagram, the circle of the Venn diagram, which is what people are actually looking for, right? The content you create needs to answer those questions. So the Venn diagram has to overlap between what you want to create and what the audience wants to see. So you can meet your supply of information with the audience's demand. There are specific ways to do that. There's prompts to ask ChatGPT. What are 10 long tail keywords on infinite banking? And it'll tell you the things people are asking, right? You can create a calendar of content to answer those questions. So that way, but when they are answering those questions, they'll find your blog post if it's optimized well enough. They'll find your blog post and they'll go in and they'll see that you're an authority on infinite banking. But I also think like the referrals are really important too, because people are much more likely to go to you if they say, hey, my friend also knows this person, right? Or if you've connected with them on LinkedIn and they see your face all the time, then they'll be like, oh, when the time comes that they are within like the scope of purchase or interest, they'll see like, I should probably reach out to Chris because he knows about infinite banking, right? So I think the combination of making sure that your face is seen and known and associated with those concepts, and then also having a bank of content that you have that answers those specific questions, that's a good recipe because at the end of the day, we're trying to meet the demand of information, which is people searching for things. They're getting into the vortex, right? You got to have your stuff in that vortex, and having a backup log of what they might be asking around that infinite banking topic, right? Because that's just the surface. That's like the tip of the iceberg. Because there's so many other things. It's called PAA. People also ask when you type into Google infinite banking, they may ask like 5 other different things. And those are the long tail. So creating content, answering the questions, right? When I say creating content, it really just means answering questions people are asking. That way they can dive deeper into what you're saying, so that way, you're familiar because they've seen you online in different places, and maybe their friends are connected with you. And then when they are in that scope of interest, you're there, and you're there to help.
Karina, I don't know about you, but I've gotten the most impressions, right? And people that stay on our videos from saying things like, here are the 5 things that our clients are asking us, like just random stuff. Like it is the most random thing. Like people are like, oh, yeah, I want to ask that question, right? And it's like, oh, yeah, I want to know the answer to that. It's like the most random thing. And then when we actually do videos that are done and professionally done and things like that, it's like 1/100th of that, right? And so the engagement part of it, and you're right, Ryan, our ability to engage and answer questions that they don't even know they even have, but they know they have, right? They're just not willing to ask them. It's like, oh, well, I hadn't thought about that question, right? I think getting them to think about things like that. Karina, how are you using some of the things that Ryan is saying in your social media? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
gonna look while we're talking. Let me look at your social media.
Oh goodness. No, I mean,
Let me
it's
look at
better.
the Karina
Oh
vortex.
goodness. So so Ryan, I'm more in the property and casualty space. So my being an independent property and casualty agent, we not only are trying to advertise, and we were nationwide agents, captive nationwide agency for many years. So we want to market not only Wigner Insurance, my company, we also want to market nationwide because we love them and want to keep that. But then we also have all these other Progressive Travel, we have all these other carriers, and we want to let people know because of our history that like we have all of these other carriers, because still to this day, and it's been 5 years, like, oh, I didn't know you did more than nationwide. I thought you Wigner nationwide, like that's where they, so we're trying to break that, but or stretch it, I guess, right? Like I don't want to get rid of that association, but I also need to bring in all the other things. But Chris, to your point, one of our biggest commented posts was there was a huge storm in Pennsylvania. Well, there are huge storms in Pennsylvania, but there was a huge one, and all the internet and phones were out at my house, but I had internet and phones at my office. So I posted a picture of me and my girls, and it was, just a selfie, me and my girls. Hey, my home's not doesn't have internet or phones, but my office does. We'll be here to answer any questions for you today. And that was one of the biggest commented and viewed posts that we had put on for a while. And it was this, selfie of me and my girls just saying, hey, we're here during the storms.
Yeah. I think well, what it does is it brings some humanity to the situation, right? Because you could easily think that P&C insurance is like, institutional, right? And you want it to be safe, but I think because you're kind of, saying like this is the life situation that we are in, and we're still here. Showing people the face, showing people the humanity behind, because that's why people go to one agent versus another, right? They want to see the humanity, they want it to mirror them. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, we just posted like summer hours. We're working virtually so we can best serve you. I mean, we're a small office with young staff or with staff with young kids. Summer's crazy. We're running our kids to camp just like everybody else and doing everything. And we're like, we're here. It could be early in the morning. Like, call us. Don't just come in here and think one of us is here. We might be completely closed, but we're working somewhere.
Yeah.
We might just be in transition, and we'll get comments on that. Like, I'm so glad you're spending time with your kids, and I'm so glad you have a flexible schedule. And, it's one of the things that I love about this industry is that I can do that. I can be, working mom, business owner, and have that flexible schedule and get to be there with my kids. But, it does, like, our clients love it. I mean, during snowstorms, why are you answering the phone? Why aren't you playing outside with your kids? I'm here. I'm working from home.
That's good.
Yeah, but
That's a good
it's
touch.
marketing that and finding that balance of, again, professionalism and real life.
Yeah. I think what could be hard is if, there aren't any disasters, and that sounds really bad, but like when everything's kind of normal, you're still in business even when things are normal, right? And that's where this having the communication strategy is really helpful, because then you always know what you're going to be saying, right? Back to this finfluencer thing. The reason they're so good is that they have a count of what they're going to be doing, and they have systems involved in making these things happen. Agents can absolutely do these things as well, right? Having the calendar, having the systems involved, saying we are always going to be doing this, because at the beginning when you're starting, you might, you might trip up a little bit and you're like, oh, I don't know how that post went, or whatever. Things might they might not have a smooth execution the first few times, but when I'm going to be doing this on a consistent basis, creating those things, having a few bumps in the road, getting past them and still creating the content. So putting your messaging out there, and maybe that says, hey, we were nationwide and now we're all these other things as well, right? Having that consistent communication, that fills in the gaps that's really needed when things are normal, right? When there's not a disaster, that you can kind of show the humanity and the empathy behind the business model. It helps you make sure that you're staying consistently in front of people, showing your face, and making sure that people understand who you are and what you're about.
That's awesome.
It's hard,
Yeah.
just because Ryan, obviously you've been in the marketing side probably longer than Karina and I both. I think her and I kind of grew up shaking hands, kissing babies, right? And then going door to door, not really going door to door, but referrals and building centers of influence and things like that.
Yeah.
And so it's difficult because it's a new thing, right? It's a new muscle that we've just now developed, and having that. So my question goes to Ryan: how do you balance it? Because like my marketing people, it's literally a full-time job. Like that, we sold it. I'm like, I can't do. I don't have time to do it. Like when we do videos, we literally do videos for like 3 hours, 4 hours, and then they cut it up, slice it up, do whatever they want. And it rolls out over the next. The content's in the can, and we're running, right? So, but I mean, they're doing stuff every day, and it's like,
you don't see what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, like how do you have time? How do you have time to do that every day? Especially when we're fighting to see clients, we're up against all the changes that are happening with Congress and those types of things. We're people are concerned about the ever fluctuating markets and the world is crashing and interest rates are through the roof and are we going to go to war? Some of the other things that are at play. How do we balance? How does someone balance who doesn't have the budget?
Yeah.
Fortunate enough that we have a pretty reasonable budget, because we've been around a very long time. But for those who don't have the budget to do it,
Hmm.
to delegate it.
Yeah. Well,
Ryan, what do they do?
I would say like what's the primary priorities, right? If you're an advisor and maybe you're just going independent. I'm speaking with a guy in a few days and he's like, I'm gonna make the move, right? He doesn't know if he wants to start his own RIA or just go under somebody else's RIA, but he's like he's gonna go independent and that's what he wants to do. And so I'll tell him like, okay, you got to figure out what's the layer of work you want to do and what's the strategic move that you want to make. What are your biggest goals here? Do you have a bank of clients that you're already working with, or you're going to have to build a new book if you have to if you have to break away, and maybe that's the truth, right? But say you have 20, 50 clients that you're working with. um, you definitely want to make sure that you have the cash flow in order to be sustaining a business at all, because if you don't want to pull the wool over your eyes and be like, I'll be fine. I'll just create an Instagram and a LinkedIn account and I'll post every day and then I'll hope for clients to come in. No, I would say like make sure that you're focusing on the cash flow first, because through that all other things are possible with the institutional knowledge that you have. But then I would say like okay, 5 year or yeah, next year, right? What are the biggest goals you have? And maybe that is building up an email list or putting together a webinar plan, right? Then it's like, okay, now it's a time management exercise. This is how you balance things, right? There's a great quote. There's a guy named Ed Milet, and he's a motivational speaker, business leader. He's like, I have 14 businesses. I don't balance anything, right? I pull things up as they come. Uh, he's trying to just push things ahead one by one, and he's playing whack-a-mole. And that's kind of what business is, unless you can say, this person is going to be doing this on my team, or maybe I'm outsourcing it to that person, and I'm going to trust that they're going to do it, right? And they should really be proactive about making sure that you're hitting your strategic priorities. But having like one number saying, we're only going to be doing a podcast a month or a webinar a month, and that's the thing to focus on. I think, again, I talked about earlier about having the niche. When you have that specific niche that you're going after, if this guy that I'm speaking with on Wednesday, his background is in wine and financial advising. I'm like, okay, find the niche, identify 100 people that you want to go after, and market to those people saying we're going to be hosting a webinar on tax strategies for wine shop owners, right? That's really niche. Maybe it's going to be 100 people, but those are going to be the right people. And then after the time you have allotted to that thing, work on client work, right? I would say don't sacrifice the marketing for clients right now that you're working with, because they're going to be your next referral source. The main business that advisors get is from referrals. Marketing supplements that business. So to consolidate my answer, right, focus on the number one thing, which is delivering service to clients. And after that is solved, then you can allocate time and or resources to figuring out what's the number one goal of your marketing, which is probably to bring in new business, right? And then feed people back into the funnel. So I said a few things right there. You can't balance it, but you can say, I'm going to only spend this amount of time on marketing or these initiatives.
So Ryan, I heard you say keep the first thing first.
Yeah.
I like PAGALs, powerful groups of words, right? So keep the first thing first, right? So whatever that is, whether it's seeing clients, getting clients, maintaining client relationships, whether it's, whatever that first, keep the first thing first, keep the main thing the main thing. We've heard that. So talk to us a little bit about, if you're in marketing, why did you join NAIFA? Like, how did this, like, you had like the NAIFA thing, like, how did you're like, I'll jump, I'll be part of this financial service.
This is exactly what I eat my own dog food, right? I tell people pick a niche. This is the niche. this is my niche, advisors, right? Insurance and financial advisors. I was working with a lot of different industries and, psychiatrists and, like I said, weed rolling companies and a battery technology company. They're hosting webinars, but they all have very different markets. They all have very different needs and technological sophistications, although you do see that with advisors sometimes. But I said, I know this market because like I said, I grew up in this market. My dad is an advisor, so I understand the mindset. I understand the regulations they have to jump through. I get the mindset you need to be an advisor. And then I said, okay, I can do this here because I've, worked with my dad, and so now I have other clients in New Jersey and around the country. But I tell this to clients too. Find the niche, because then you are going to be the only person there that, or maybe one of a very few, that are doing this for your niche. The guy who was speaking with about the wine, he's going to be the only advisor at this wine conference, guaranteed, or very few, right? It becomes a blue ocean rather than a red lake. I guess that's the phrase, right? There's the competition is lower. Not that I don't like competition. I love competition. I do triathlons. But I think it increases the resolution of the problems that I'm solving when I can understand really deeply what issues my market is dealing with, right? I went to congressional conference in last month in May, and I'm like in the room with advisors, and I'm hearing what their stories are, what challenges they're dealing with, and I just want to support that and say, like, these are really important careers because so many people don't understand like financial services at all, and these are the people that are helping them do that. And I help advisors help those people. So it's about focusing on the niche.
So Ryan, I have to ask, are you coming to NLC, National Leadership Conference? Because the part of this conference is to teach the locals how to build, grow, and develop their states and their affiliates.
Yeah.
Through marketing, through recruiting, through membership, through a bunch of different things, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, sounds like I need to be there.
Yeah. So I would tell you NLC is a great, Zach, shameless plug. I mean, come on. So you should come to NLC.
Yeah.
I know some people that know some people, and perhaps we could get you in front of some others to talk about the importance of collective marketing, because I see NAIFA as an algorithm on its own, right? If we do it right, right? My ability to market because Karina is successful becomes easier in Illinois just because she's successful, right? If I'm using the same hashtag words, if I'm using the same, like I was having a conversation with our group, and I was I said, so what are your hashtag words for your state? And they're like, well, it's this. Then I went to the next group. I said, what are they for your state? They're like, they're this. And I'm like, well, what are they for national? They're like, we're this. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, you guys understand that, like, the more we use the same words, like, the more, the bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger it gets. Like, so, like, what are the things that we're going to agree that, everybody uses? Obviously, you have your own unique ones, but we all use the same ones. But that's the part of our ability to grow through marketing, through influence, right? Our
That
ability to
actually
be able to grow.
That's
right?
how this is more of an action versus a words based strategy. But there's something called LinkedIn pods. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but there's 4 different metrics that the algorithms use to make something more visible to the entire audience. And like, we could set up a NAIFA pod, or like NAIFA state-based pod, where I am resharing Karina's words with some quotes, right? And you're also doing it too, because a reshare for LinkedIn, that has a higher value of algorithmic virality. And it means like, oh, this is a really good post, right? So it's kind of a very similar thing to what you're saying about with the hashtags, just in a different way. but it's a really, your point is taken, right? We can all use our collective power on these platforms and elsewhere to amplify each other's voices.
Yeah. We are strong, as our coach used to say. You take 5 hands and try to knock it through a wall, you hit the wall and you hurt your hand, right? But if you take those same 5 fingers and you go like this, you can knock a hole through the wall almost every time. It's the same 5
That's cool.
fingers, right? It's just how they're formed, right? So it's not mine. It's just borrowed and repurposed, right? So you can borrow it now. You can repurpose it yourself, Karina. You can repurpose that, right? The 5 fingers. It's kind of a cool concept, whatever. But we've got, we need to have you back. We'd love to see you at NLC.
When is that? Give me the details on it.
Zach can provide those for those who are looking for advice on NLC. NLC is coming up here. We're about, I want to say 90 days, 60 days away, Karina.
Oh,
right? I don't have the dates.
October in DC? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is October 14th at the UVA Darden Sands Family Grounds in Arlington, Virginia.
Okay.
It's a day and a half of unification, leadership, opportunity for our association.
Celebration,
all the awards. So all the super people, the superstars who have performed and given so much to NAIFA, we will celebrate them and we'll have a good time and we will the new transition of leadership comes into play and gets sworn in. So Ryan, you'll be amongst the table of
that sounds good. I like
who
that.
need to be there. So come. We'd love to have you. But we got to move to the speed round because unfortunately,
oh my goodness, yeah.
we're out of time. We've been talking about marketing and it's really engaging. We'll have to have you back. So Zach, we got to have him back. I'm sure people want to hear part 2 from Ryan. So Ryan, the speed round acts like this. It's basically you're on the hot seat, not really on the hot seat. We're not going to ask you like questions that you wouldn't answer in front of your mom or dad. We're just going to ask you questions or political affiliates. We're not going to ask you that.
Sure.
You're not, what did you do when you were in grade school and actually you were looking at somebody else? We're not going to ask you this. We're going to ask you stuff along the lines of just so people get to know you when they see you, they can identify you, they understand things about you, of things that are important to you. So I'll start it off and then we'll go to Karina and we'll kind of go back and forth for a couple and then we'll wrap it up. Okay. We got a couple minutes left. Okay. With that being said, Ryan, what's your favorite food?
I'd say cake, but I eat a lot of bagels, so bagels.
Bagels. Okay, Karina.
Favorite movie?
Oceans 11, 12, and 13.
Oceans 11, 12, and 13.
Great answer.
Probably 12 because everybody doesn't like 12. But Oceans 11 is the best movie.
All right. Next question. Your proudest moment in the industry that you're in so far?
Oh, I went to Congressional Congress in May, and it was really, really cool to this was when they were trying to sign this bill, right? And so the president was going to the state building, and the security was hot. It was very cool to be in those rooms where these things were happening. It was awesome.
Okay, Karina.
Favorite thing to do outside of work?
Well, I can't say triathlons. I have a young kids, so just hanging out with my kids. They're very cute and giggly, and it's awesome.
Okay. Ryan, if you could go back and tell yourself, your 20-year-old self, some words of advice, what would you tell yourself?
Slow down. Focus. Focus.
Slow down and focus.
It'll be okay. Take a breath.
It's a learning lesson, right? When you get a chance to reflect.
Yeah.
Karina, do you have one more? If not, I have one final one that's always good.
I know. I was going to ask it, but I was going to take it but I want you to deliver. No. Something you would like to accomplish yet in 2025.
What do I want to accomplish in 2025? Well, I'm hosting a pickleball event in St. Louis in a few weeks, and I really want to get a lot of people to that. But yeah, professionally, I would say that I like making things work well.
Ryan, you're officially off the team. You just said pickleball out loud. Like you're officially off the team. I'm bad.
I've never played pickleball, but I'm helping somebody put on this event.
Okay.
I want to do
All
it.
right,
You got your,
you're back
you got
on.
your, yeah, you got your points back. No,
All right.
I'm sure there's some pickleball people listening to this, but it's interesting because I work out with some guys and they're like, pickleball is just like playing professional sports, and I look at them like, are you kidding? Like it is
Yeah.
okay, got it. Well, you could be physical. Oh, no, it's a whole nother thing. The last question for you is if you can go back in time and have dinner with anyone, whether they're here, they passed on, or in today's times, who would it be and why?
Probably my dad's dad. Um, I think I could have learned a lot from him. I think I was like 4 when he passed away. Um, but it's always my dad is a very specific character, and I wasn't like old enough to know the person that shaped him enough. So I would like to have dinner with them. I think that'd be a lot of fun, just because, um, you know, uh, to show them or to show him where I've uh, gone. I think that'd be really cool. I'm getting like emotional here, man.
I was going to say we got to keep it dry. I got a question that's a zinger, and we've had everything. If you go back and look at the podcasts, we've had that question gets us to think about significant versus success, because it allows for us to go back and think about the impact in which we're having in people's lives, and also the people that observe us and we lead, right? So I appreciate you being open and honest, Karina. We love you. We love having you here as a part
Love
of
being
the
here.
podcast. Ryan, NAIFA Nation is listening. Do you have anything else you would like to share? And again, selfless plug. We'd love to see you at NLC.
I would say if you're a NAIFA member, purely because I'm on the membership committee in New Jersey, and I know people don't understand how many benefits there are to being a member. Like, figure out everything you can get about using your NAIFA membership, and also think about what your niche is and find the association that's based with your niche, because you cannot imagine how important it is to focus, because what you focus on expands, and it's very important. So benefits and focus, that's what I would say.
Ryan, thank you so much. Karina, do you have anything before I close this out?
No, I'm good. I mean, just I've taken notes on this. I'm like motivated for another triathlon from our conversation we had a little bit before the podcast started, and I've
is
got
that?
some work to do. Mine is July 13th, the one I'm doing. But so
Okay.
I'm like
luck.
ready to go out and go for a run, and also then get on LinkedIn and like look up all kinds of stuff. So thank you so much, Ryan. This was such a great conversation today.
Yeah, this was great.
I'd like
Awesome.
2.0. Right.
Loved it.
I need another one.
2.0. We got to bring him back, Zach. So listen, talk to our talent scout. He's the guy over in the other room that's making things happen. Zach can get you back on. But we'd love to have you.
100%.
So NAIFA Nation, if you didn't take notes, you can rewind it and listen to it again. Keep the main thing, the first thing. As you enter your business with humanity and empathy, you tend to be more not reliable, but more human in what you're doing, and that will make a huge difference. We appreciate you tuning in to Advisor Today, the podcast, where we are hearing from the top influencers or fin-fluencers like Ryan, who's helping us navigate the waters of the time so that we can show up as the best version for ourselves, so we can help our clients make the decisions to live a greater life for themselves. So we appreciate you being here. Thank you all. And we look forward to seeing you again on the next Advisor Today podcast.
Thanks for joining us for NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series. Make sure to subscribe to get future episodes. And if you're interested in coming on the show, let us know.